Hi, I'm Mike Wilson from MW Fitness Coach. Today I'd like to take you through the complexities of the squat. It's going to be very brief, but I'll give you an overview of everything that we need to look at just to get a pretty good squat out of a normal person that goes to the gym or someone who's looking for a little bit more of an aesthetic sort of style training. So let me show you the squat. First thing is how we address the bar. Let's go for thumbs width away from the kernelling on the bar, or where the first bit of the grip is on the bar. Then we're going to duck underneath the bar, try and make sure we're in the middle, pinch your shoulders back, tight grip of the bar, one step back, wide feet, over shoulder width, toes poking out. Then we're going to slide down, pushing your bum backwards as much as you can, maybe just underneath parallel, and popping back up. Okay, so now you've seen the squat, let's talk about it. I'm going to break it down for you, starting with the top here. The bar placement is very important. I put the bar on my shoulders and then I pinch my shoulder blades together as tight as I could, which stops the bar touching your spine. The more you bring the shoulder blades together, the better the squat's going to be, and the more comfortable you're going to be. So, secondly, on bar placement, I'm going to make sure that the bar is in the middle of my back. So, it helps to rack the bar, make sure it's in the middle of your squat rack first. Then, by lining my thumbs up on the bar, with maybe one of the lines that are on the bar, I'm going to get a pretty good idea of where the middle is, and then I just need to duck under the bar from there. So, once we've got the setup of the bar, we're going to put it on your shoulders. Now, this is where it gets interesting. A lot of people will have a high bar placement, which can be a little bit uncomfortable. Works really well for some people, but I think for the majority of people, the further down your back we make this bar placement, the better it's going to be. Firstly, because it's going to be more comfortable. Secondly, because we want the weight to be directly over the quadriceps. If we put the bar higher up the back, as on the diagram here, the weight would be transferred further over, which would increase the tilt that you lean forwards and also make the squat more difficult. So, try placing it down lower. Things I'd love to go into if I had more time would be how we get under the bar a little bit lower and how we make it more comfortable. But as a rough guide, you could, if you struggle with that, you could just stretch your chest out in a dual frame and open up the chest a little bit more to make the bar more comfortable. And at this stage, you could just bring your arms out on the bar a lot wider. That would really help you out. But the aim of the game is to get it a little bit further down your back and to be as comfortable as possible. The next thing that I want to look at is the break in the hips here when we start the squat. So, first of all, the first thing that should move is your hips going backwards. I don't want people to lean forwards first or the knees to come forwards. Everything has to go down all at the same time, and that starts with just pushing the hips backwards into the movement and sinking back down. A nice way to think about this is that you're going to sit back down into a chair. So that's the direction that the hips would take. That should be pretty easy to do for most people. If you struggle with that, maybe it'd be worth putting a bench behind you and doing a few squats just sitting backwards, sitting down onto a bench in the gym, and have a good practice with that. The other way you could practice that would be by getting a wall and putting you next to a wall, getting really close to it, maybe put your arms up on the wall and slide down. It becomes very, very easy to have the hinge point at the hips. A lot of people struggle with that, so that's a great way to practice. The next thing I want to talk about is the ankle movement. This is very, very stiff for most people around here. The degree in the ankle is very restricted. We wear a lot of running shoes that roll you forward, so your ankle never has to work that hard. And our calves are quite small muscles, so they get really, really tight. So a great way to start before you do your squat would be to do a lot of ankle mobility, whether that be pushing it up against a wall and pushing your knee forwards towards it, rocking it side to side. A lot of people are putting bands around them these days in the gym and pulling against the band. But as long as you're warming up, getting the calf loaded with a little bit of weight, like just the bar, working through it, that will come along, and the more that you work on that angle, the better your squat would be. You can wear weightlifting shoes which will increase the angle that you can get in your whole squat by sort of 10 degrees, which is great. It's really going to help a lot of people out, but this is one of the things that I would really work on. I see a lot of squats, as soon as they go down, the calves get to the end range, and then they're just leaning forwards from there onto the balls of the feet. It means that the quads work loads and the calves also get worked a lot, and we miss out on a lot of that posterior chain working from the glutes especially, which is really, really important. You have only got so much potential if you're just using your quads and you're tight everywhere else. Whereas if you get more mobility, then that you're not putting a ceiling on what you could lift as your max, because everything's helping out. You're also not going to get injured because everything's working a lot better. You've got a lot better movement through there. So definitely work on there. Stretch these calves out loads. Okay, so the other thing that people really need to work on just in day-to-day activity is the hips, and especially the hamstrings. So most people are sitting at work all day, closing the gap in their hips in here, making it very, very difficult to come straight to the gym after work, 8 hours of sitting down and being able to perform a really good squat. So I would spend a lot of time working on the hip flexors, or holding up, stretching the quads and pushing the hips into it, so you feel the stretch up there, but also pushing the hips forwards and getting into the hips, loosening those off. The other problem with sitting down all day is the hamstrings. They're going to get very, very tight and actually get shorter. So what this looks like in most people in general population is when they squat, they'll come down, the hamstrings will get tight and their bum will tuck underneath. Really roll the hips underneath because of the tightness in there. So you can help that out by stretching the hamstrings and also the calves. And this can work really, really quickly. Hamstrings get going quite quickly. If you just stretch them out, they'll be working good as new with a really good stretch routine and doing it consistently for a couple of weeks' time. And then what you will be able to do from that is get further down into your squat, become much deeper into the squat, and get you below this 90-degree line. And the further you get into the squat, the more of the posterior chain you can use, and then the more you can drive out of that squat, the more comfortable you're going to be and the better weight that you'll be able to build onto that. Let's have a little look at the eye position. I find it very easy to look at the right spot to get your head into the right position. If you look forwards, if you can see from my position, looking forwards will mean that you put an arch in your neck. If you look down, then your head's going to be in the right place for the squat. Looking down at a skirting board or maybe the bottom of a squat rack. That's going to give you a great head position very, very easily, rather than you worrying about where to put your head during the squat. Just look in the right place, your eyes drive your body, and you'll be away. Much better. So once you're looking in the right position, you'll be away. You could look up on the way up if you're really struggling, maybe doing your 1 rep max. It's really, really difficult. You could just look up from there and that might help you or give you the incentive to get you a little bit higher up and power out of the squat. So that's where to look, that's where to place the bar. We've got ankle mobility. I've given you a couple of stretches for there, a couple of stretches for the chest. So in a very brief description, we've covered most of the squat that will get 90% of the people squatting really well. So give that a try. Like the video at the bottom if you find it helpful. Share it with other people and let's try and get everybody moving a little bit better into their squat and building up those PBs. Thanks very much. I've been Mike from MW Fitness Coaching.